You're listening to the Play It Brave podcast. Join Darcy for a wild rummage around in her wit and wisdom. She's a photographer, an educator, and a marketing ninja. Each week, she's going to be teaching you all about creating a life full of mindset, money, and marketing miracles. Listen to real-world experiences and surefire strategies from expert guests, all to keep you focused on your path to success. Think less hand-holding or fist bumps. So stop playing safe. It's time to start playing it brave. Here's your host, Darcy Benincosa.
Today on the Play It Brave podcast, I have my very special guest, Caroline Tran. Caroline, we have known each other online forever. We've never met in person. I am so excited to have you here. And you're based in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And you do weddings, lifestyle, branding. You and I share a lot of similarities where you were a teacher. I was a teacher. I did it for 14 years. I think you did it for about 5.
Yeah.
Before we gave into the passion of photography. And you booked out your clients pretty quickly. I think you decided to start shooting. And then within 6 months, you had a full calendar. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you always shoot film? Did you just know your aesthetic, or was it trial and error with clients at the beginning? Were you shooting digital?
It was definitely trial and error, but really fast trial and error, because I don't know if I would necessarily recommend this to people, but you know how they say never practice on your clients?
Yes.
A lot of it for me in the beginning was practicing on my clients. Like, I should do this. And then it's like, but I had, I think the internet I entered at the right time. And I think I unknowingly had positioned myself well on the internet. So people were finding me, and
just because you were blogging a lot, like
yes.
SEO type things.
Yeah, I was blogging because I didn't know, like, prior to becoming a photographer, I was already blogging. Like, just I had a personal blog and had a good following from that. So then when I started doing photography, I started blogging about that because that was my hobby at the moment. I had a lot of hobbies, by the way, sewing, like dolls, like whatever it was. And I used to blog it all, and people would follow along on my hobbies. And so when it started transitioning to photography, it did start off as a hobby at first. And actually photography came because I was trying to take better pictures of my dolls.
Were you crafting these dolls?
Let me show you.
Actually. I want to see a doll.
Give me a quick second.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Wow, this is a part of you I never knew. So amazing.
While I was a teacher, my side hustle at the time was actually sewing doll clothes. So we would make little outfits like this. And these outfits would honestly sell for like $800 on eBay.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy though. I am buying a ton of dog clothes right now because it's so fun. And there's one lady, and she's just making a killing on like little doggy berets and just the littlest thing. That is such a cool thing. So you were blogging. What year was this that you were blogging?
I've been blogging since 2000.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I started mine in 2007, and I thought I was totally on the cutting edge. But I remember when everybody kind of had a personal blog. I would come home from work and like put up a blog post, all my musings. I guess it's
RSS feeds.
It's our version of Instagram. I always think, what's the current version of what blogging used to be for my business? I think it's Instagram, but maybe it's now going into TikTok. It's just the mediums are changing, but I think that process of showing up daily to an audience and connect and interact is always the same.
Exactly. It's so true. But so I was sewing these doll clothes, and I was trying to make more money from the doll clothes. And so I was like, why are some people selling it for $5? Like, honestly, you could buy a doll dress for $5, but there was also people who were selling for $500, $800. So it got me thinking, like, why? Why do they get more money? And I realized good photography was a huge component to it. So I started trying to take better pictures of my dolls, and they were my early subjects.
It is so true. I can't tell you how many times I've bought something because the picture online was so gorgeous and I paid a lot. And then I got it in my house and I'm like, it's not as special, but I felt like it was still special. And I was like, I need to put it in a space where it looks really beautiful. I think you're so right. Pictures of products are the most important thing that you can do to sell a product. So you started with that. And then when did you know that you were going to quit teaching? Was it hard to leave teaching, or was it just so obvious and you just had to get out of there?
I've always loved teaching. I mean, and that's why I'm back in like photography education now.
Mm-hmm.
But in all honesty, I am not a morning person. That's partly why I'm 15 minutes late to today's meeting. So teaching was really hard in that sense. And also, like, I pour my heart into everything I do. And I just found teaching starting to drain me year after year, like repetitive, like the creativity part was killing me because I taught physics. So it's the same curriculum.
Yeah.
Here, I had to teach it 5 times a day.
And there's, I know the repetitiveness of that, like teaching the same lesson 5 to 8 times a day was really hard for me. And also the fact that no matter
what grade did you teach?
What grade? I taught for 14 years. So most of the time it was 10th, 11th, 12th. And I had a couple years of 8th grade. Yeah.
Oh, what subject?
Everything, but mostly English, drama, French, journalism, anything in the English realm. So at least I could choose different books for us to read each year, but there are some keys, like you're always going to teach Shakespeare, which I loved. You're always going to teach certain things. But what I realized is no matter how good I was, how present I was, how much I showed up, how much better of a teacher I became, the salary was never going to reflect that.
Right.
Either you were a bum on the wall teacher, which we've all had those. I had a history teacher who I just had to sit there and copy notes from a board every day. And that was how he taught us history. Can you imagine? History is so fascinating. And we just had to go in, write down the bullet points, memorize it, and take a quiz. He was so checked out.
That's how history was taught to me. And I grew up hating history. And now as an adult, I was like, oh my God, this is fascinating. Like when I watched the musical Hamilton, I was blown away. I'm like, why was history not taught like this? I'd be so into it. Like,
it's so true. I had one history teacher, bless him. He was my AP history teacher. And he got up there and he was like an actor every day. Yeah. And I remember once he took 45 minutes to show us the right way that a Native American would scalp someone. And he like used a demonstration. There was not like every single kid, eyes on him were like, oh my gosh. And he had so much drama. And that's when I realized the power of teaching.
Yes.
And you and I are both teachers. And I just know I've always been a teacher. Like photography is so wonderful, but teaching feeds my soul. Yeah. So if you can be a teacher like that, like how powerful. And sadly, I think most of us never got that kind of education where we didn't, and then Hamilton came out. You're right. You're like, I should be learning history through rap songs. Why am I not doing this?
Not only
Manuel Miranda, he is a brilliant,
but just actually bringing persona and perspective to each character. Like these were real people, they weren't just dates and facts, like they actually had feelings, and being able to like empathize with them, I feel like, just brought a whole other connection to
humanity is and always will be the most fascinating thing. Like I think it's why I don't like sci-fi as much. It's fine, but I'd rather find the memoirs and the true stories and what did people overcome and what did they conquer and what is this person's dark side like? And that's awesome. So you started shooting full time then and left your teaching job and shot for a couple of years and then started adding in the education. And did you start off with families or weddings?
So when I was a teacher, it started off as me shooting dolls. And as I was shooting dolls, my coworkers would be like, hey, like shoot my kids. They're like dolls, right? So I started shooting kids. And somewhere in there, I also got married. So when I got married was when I discovered specifically wedding photography. And I remember I had this idea that I really wanted, I loved the connection that a photographer was able to have with their clients. There's just the personal stories that you're given the honor to document and tell.
Totally.
And it totally fit with my blogging, workflow, I guess, or mindset. And so after I got married, I really wanted to start. I had a vision, a business plan for a wedding photography business. I actually had a really bad wedding photography personal experience when I got married
man, I was
myself.
going to ask you if you lucked out and hired a big famous film photographer.
So it's actually, it's a good story. I'll share it. So what happened was when I got married, I knew nothing about photography. With my husband, then fiance at the time, we basically divvied up tasks, right? You find the venue, you find, so I assigned him venue and photographer and DJ.
Okay.
And I took on florist, and then I DIY'd most of my wedding.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't care. I just want to sew my own bridesmaids' dresses and make my own invites. You find the photographer and everything. So he basically found a photographer that fit within budget. And I did get to meet with them, and I really connected with the sales lady. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh yeah, this is great. But then on the day of the shoot, it's a photographer that showed up, and there was no connection with him at all. Mm. And I didn't think anything of it, right? Like I referred him to my best friend who got married a couple months before me. She ended up hiring him as well. So engagement sessions came back, photos came back, and it was fun. I cared more that I made my own dresses for the shoot than the photos themselves. But they were okay. I didn't think much of it. My best friend gets married. She gets her photos back, and she's like, they're okay. Mm-hmm. And I started looking more at the pictures, and I realized there's not really like a connection or story or, it's just missing something. And as I started to get more and more versed with photography throughout the planning, I saw more. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, I see a casting call from Inside Edition, the TV show, looking for someone to do a boudoir segment on. Ah. So I sign up. And I remember thinking, I'm a high school teacher. What risk am I taking right now? And I remember thinking, this was my second year in teaching, I think, first or second year in teaching.
Oh, wow.
And so I thought, and I'm a calculated risk taker. So I was like, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is I'm going to get fired for indecent exposure. I don't know. But I remember thinking, I'm willing to take that risk.
All right. I like you.
If they're going to fire me over something like this, despite because I was a great teacher, and I don't say that in a cocky way, no. But just, I was definitely pushing the envelope and really dedicating a lot of myself. And so, and I taught in the inner city in LAUSD in a school that was predominantly Bloods. Yeah. So it was a tough neighborhood. So I was just thinking, if they are so dumb to get rid of me, then they really don't appreciate me anyway. Totally. So I'm going to take this risk. So part of it is I got to find my photographer. So through that, I did, there was one person who was doing it at the time in my neighborhood and pretty big. So I reached out to her. She offered to do it for free because I had a really limited budget. I was just out of grad school at the time. So she's like, no, I'll do it for free. But we totally connected. While the camera crews were filming and stuff, we, by the end of the shoot, I was like, are you available on my wedding day? She's like, actually, I am. And I was like, oh, and this was a surprise to my husband at the time. So he knew nothing about this shoot. So I go home that day. He's home early. So I didn't get to take off the makeup before he came home. And he's like, oh, why are you all done up? And I was kind of pinup style. So it was very brick red lipstick and I was like, oh, I went for a wedding makeup trial. And
he's like, a bit much.
Yeah. He's like, don't you think it's a bit much? And I was like, yeah, I won't be using her.
That's so funny.
And then that night I was just like, I have this crazy idea. I can't tell you why, but can you just trust me that I want to switch wedding photographers? I met this woman who I really connected with, and I can't really tell you much more than that. But I don't feel positive about our current wedding photographer. I know we're already paid in 80% full, but I just don't want to regret our wedding photos.
Totally.
And I know we're going to end up paying much more than had we just, gone with the right person to begin with. But hindsight's always 20/20. And so he didn't even question me. He's like, if that's what you want, we'll do it. And we switched wedding photographers, never regret it since. But that connection that I experienced from a wedding photographer was how I knew that's what I wanted to do.
I love that you got to see both sides of how you felt with two different photographers. I think a lot of people don't get that. And, you know, those of us who've been in wedding photography for a really long time, we forget what it's like not to know anything about weddings. Like I look at my sister's wedding and it happened right before I really started diving into wedding photography. So we didn't, you know, the bouquet that we chose, and we never did a flat lay, and like just not everything was kind of what you would see in a wedding magazine, the circular bouquet, like all of these things. The one thing we did right, because John has been a dear friend of mine since college, is John Canlis shot it. So the photos are amazing no matter what.
Yeah.
But it's like, we didn't know. Now we look back, and if I were to plan a wedding, her wedding, my wedding today, it would be so different. But I think there is such a power in educating your clients, in understanding how you have to have that connection, and understanding that this is all your life all the time. They really don't know. And that's why it's so important to show full galleries, show them what they're really going to get. I remember at the beginning wanting to hide sometimes my reception photos because I didn't think they were as good. And then I just thought, I can't do that because I need them to know what they're going to get so they don't get mad at me later. Like I have to show whatever level I'm at, I have to show it.
Yep.
I think a lot of people try to only show the best, which I agree with, but I think you have to show a full range of what they're going to get in a certain
I think there's a balance between showing what you want to shoot more of. So for example, if it's a venue you don't particularly want to shoot at again, then don't show it.
Yeah.
If it's a type of, I don't know, like something cheesy, you know, then don't show it, but don't hide your work in terms of what your capability. Like if you're
capability, exactly. Yeah. So I know you shoot a ton of weddings, but you also shoot a lot of families. And one of the things that we were talking about is how to make more money in business, how to get those clients coming back again and again. And that's why I love family photography, because you can bring them back, not even once a year. I always encourage people, try to find a way to bring them back twice a year, 3 times a year, you know? So you were, you know, we were talking about the main way to increase profits, and you had the 3 main ways, which, you know, most people in business know, but will you review those with us a little bit?
Yeah. So, you know, we all reach a point in our business where we want to make more money, right? Where we want to grow. And to grow, it always only boils down to 3 ways. You either find more clients, so increase your volume.
Yep.
You raise prices to your same volume, or you add more products, so you increase the ultimately the price tag for the revenue that each client brings in.
Yeah,
so
with your current clients.
Yes, which is different than raising prices, because raising prices means that I'm going to be offering them the same services, but now at double the price or whatever increase it is. Whereas it's what else can I sell them? Like what other upsells can I offer them without raising prices? So for me, this point really happened when I had kids, because I remember when I was pregnant with my first one, that was when I was just thinking like the hours that I was working, the number of weekends that I was away. And I just thought, this isn't sustainable for once he starts school. Like once he's in school, he's going to be gone Monday through Friday. And then if I am gone after hours for golden hour shoots, and if I am gone on weekends because clients can only shoot, you know, certain times of day and weekends are the only time to accommodate them, when do I spend time with my son? So this was me planning ahead, because I knew he was still going to be home for the first couple of years. But me thinking in couple years, like in 5 years when he starts kindergarten or even preschool, right? Like how can I start pivoting my business now to prepare myself for what I want? So I basically planned backwards, and I thought, what do I want my life to look like in 5 years? And I knew that in 5 years, I didn't want to be away for the weekends as much. So what does that mean? That meant taking less weddings or just being more picky with weddings. The other thing that meant for me is really like having boundaries with clients regarding weekends, like portrait clients, because I always say, if you don't respect your own boundaries, why would a client respect it? So you have to really like, honor yourself and your goals and your boundaries. So for me, it's like, I'm not going to take a weekend portrait gig unless, I have like a higher price tag. It's double the price. So you either shoot with me Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, or you pay double if you want after hours. And I stick by that because
I love that.
I'm not making it. And another business advice that I had gotten was don't say no, say how much. And it's kind of opposite because I know there's like a whole campaign about say no more often.
I know, but I'm the same with you. If somebody does something that I'm like, oh, that'd be really hard, I put a price where I'm like, I will feel okay saying yes at this price.
Yep, exactly. So for me, that's what I did for myself. Like, how much would it take for me to be happy about it and not feel like I compromised? So that was the business structure that I moved towards. And so that's, so in a way, that's one way I raised prices on the portraits, right? I kept my prices the same if you were willing to come to me at my studio 9 to 5 on weekdays. Actually, it's actually 9 to 3. So 9 to 3 on weekdays while my kids are at school, that will be the same price. But if you want me to come to you, or if you want to shoot after those hours, then it's double the price. And that's just a way that I felt okay with it. And I felt like I wouldn't have, compromised, I think is the best word. So,
I mean, I love this idea to, increase profits. The way I've always been taught from a marketing perspective, which I think photographers need to think more, photographers, creatives, we need to learn to think more like marketers. And it goes back to your point of, you could keep raising your rate on one thing, but if you can find other things that they want to buy, like you look at Apple, what if Apple only kept creating just the iMac? Right. And it was like iMac, now it's 2,500, now it's 28, now it's 32, now because they were like, we have to make more profit, but all they had to offer was the iMac. Instead, they have the iMac and they keep it at a pretty similar price. Now they have the iWatch, the iPhone. They used to have the iPod, now they have the iPad. They know that people are loyal to the Apple name, and people who buy Apple usually always buy Apple, and they're going to want the different things. And they solved different needs with each product. The iMac, I can edit all my big photos on, but my iPhone, I can take on the road and shoot video on. Those are my laptop I have to take when I return emails on the road. It's everything.
Because the hardest part, as you know, is converting someone to become a
client. Just that first client.
Yes.
And once you have them and they love what you do, it's so much easier to figure out how to keep serving them.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was exactly was my plan. Was I was thinking, the hardest part is converting someone to become a client. Once they become a client, they have bought into your brand, you as an artist, and your services. So after, like, usually the wedding client is the biggest sell. It's the biggest price tag. It's the one where they, want to do consultations and all that, right? But once you have them as a client, you have gotten to share one of the biggest milestones in their lives with them. You got to meet their siblings. You got to meet their parents. Like, you're in with the family at that point. So what can you do now to continue to grow with them? So I did the raising prices thing, but eventually you're going to price yourself out.
Totally.
And that's a reality too, so people who are just pushing raise prices, well, that only goes so far, right? And just like your Apple example, like if iMac started to cost like $5,000, it makes room for competitors to come in, right?
So much room. Yeah. And I think people don't think that because we have this talk of money mindset, and it's like, just be, you can charge whatever you want. I have had people say that to me again and again. And maybe I'm holding myself back, but intuitively I'm like, but can I, I guess I could on some level, and I can definitely push the envelope and go higher. But if I'm going to go much higher, I have to have a little bit more accolades. Your reputation is really important with this, the publications you get, how, if you're shooting celebrities, yes, you can keep raising those prices if you are shooting celebrity weddings. Yeah. But I think for most of us not shooting celebrity weddings, we're going to tap out of that. So learning how to bring that in.
Yeah.
So what have you done around that?
Yeah. So the reality is you do hit a ceiling, at least within your niche, your genre, right? So unless you have a plan to tap into the next market, right? Like, so within the same market, you'll hit a ceiling. So, again, back to the 3 principles. If you're already done with raising prices, what's another thing? You can raise volume. But I know for me, with having kids, I was not interested in having more clients.
Yeah.
I wanted a handful of new clients because you do need to continue to grow your pot, I guess, or like increase the farm. But that's not sustainable just by constantly, there's a max, right? You can only take X amount of clients per day realistically without burning out.
If they're taking your time, you have limited time.
Yep. So you can only so I knew realistically, I was only willing to give up 2 weekends a month. So that put me at a 20 wedding max cap, right? Unless people were getting married on Monday.
It's so crazy to think that, but yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So for me, it's like, okay, so I've already tapped out on the two principles that are possible. So the only third one is increasing sales. Like, what else can I offer these people? And so for me, I realized that, my clients are now growing. They're growing families. So how can I now offer? So portraits used to be a side thing for me. I used to be a wedding photographer who happened to shoot portraits, right? But I realized I could actually market the portraits way more now.
Yeah.
And, these are the people, like the moms in the first couple of years are typically not working yet. So they can come in on Monday through Friday. Or because of the price difference, families have the option to take the day off or take a half day off and come shoot with me on the weekday instead. So I was just trying to think of how can I serve my clients that also fit within my schedule, the 9 to 5 or 9 to 3, Monday through Friday. So I started offering portrait sessions. Now, if it's just a portrait session, I feel like people don't realize that they need it. You have to educate them that they need it. Otherwise, it's going to be like, oh yeah, it'd be great to do a family session. Oh, like, I'll do it maybe next year. Oh, next year. Right. And then once they're done with that, then it's like, oh, I already did it last year. Oh, like, so maybe another 5 years, another 10 years. But I was trying to think, how can I get people to come back every year at the minimum, twice, if possible. So that's where I came up with the idea of mini sessions.
Yeah.
And I only host those twice a year right now. And those were the only times where you were going to be able to get me on a weekend. So there was a couple incentives. One is that it was hosted on a weekend. 2, they were mini sessions. So they were only 20 minutes long, which allowed me to really pack them in. So I was able to offer it at a lower price point than had they booked me like on a one-off session.
Got it.
So this allowed for 2 clients. One, it's my previous clients who I've priced myself out of. So this was a way for me to still maintain contact and still serve my original clients who can't afford me at today's prices. And 2, it's also for new clients who maybe my current prices are too much now. So this is like kind of like a warm-up way for them to get introduced to my brand and possibly will want to book bigger shoots with me later. And which has, because then now again, right, it's how do you get them in that door initially?
Exactly. How do you get them to have that experience and connection with you?
So the mini sessions has been a really good way. It's kind of like a tripwire, it gets them just in that first step. And I make it fun. And also it's very exclusive and limited. But because I book them so back to back, I do 18 of them in one day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that though. You feel so profitable and you're just in your jam. You're like, got the music going. You're like, I am a photography ninja. I can make any child look amazing. It's so much fun. Well, you mentioned tripwires, and I think a lot of people don't know what those are, but they're so important to kind of think, what is the tripwire in your business? Can you explain it from how you learned about it?
Yeah. I mean, tripwire is basically, it's a small priced item that gets people in the door so that you can at least start to connect with them.
Exactly.
Right? Because, for example, if I'm trying to sell them a $3,000 family portrait, right, and they have no connection to my brand, they're going to be like, well, I can go to JCPenney and pay $30.
Exactly.
Why would I pay you $3,000, right? So I need them to be able to have the Caroline Tran experience first. I need them to see what the difference is and how if we personally connect, Because it might be at the end where they think, because I have many parents who are like, my kids actually really connect with Caroline. I would only hire Caroline again because she's the one that makes my difficult child feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
once they have that amazing epic experience and you've blown them out of the water, then they're ready to pay so much more for it.
Yep. So it's just, how can I give them that small experience but the key is you can't dilute your full experience too.
Exactly.
Because if you give it all away, then that's all they're going to expect, right? So that's why these are mini sessions. They're 20 minutes long. They know what they're getting. They get 10 photos and it's just a taste. It's a tease. Yeah. And holidays are a great time to do it because most people for holidays just want a holiday card anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's a great time to put that together. The other time I do it is Mother's Day because for me, that's 6 months apart.
That's such a good idea.
Together.
Yeah.
But it's also the Mother's Day I found has been really helpful for single moms who maybe have been embarrassed to schedule a shoot with me and admit that, it's just them. So I had a client who, I remember my very first year doing mini sessions. I had never met her before. She came in, as a new client with her daughter, and we shot and we really connected personally, but I had no idea like what her backstory was. And she at the end, I got a gift from her in the mail, like a really lovely gift with a thoughtful letter that just explained like, you have no idea how much your session meant to me. Like I'm currently going through a divorce process right now. And, this session gave me such a way to connect with my daughter alone without like the taboo of, the potential of being a single mom and, not knowing where this is going. And like, she just poured her heart out to me. And like, she started to come to every mini session after that because that's the one way that she was able to connect and document her time with her daughter. And the best part was like, so she's been coming to me, I don't know, for 5 years or something, right? But like 3 years into it, like a guy came and it was the daughter's dad.
Oh.
Because they're trying to reconcile.
Oh, wow.
And so she, gives me heads up. It's like, he's going to come. I don't know where this is going. He's decided he wanted to be part of the holiday cards this year. And, but I don't know. And so I got to see the process of them getting back together. And then now they have a second child together. And so
wow.
Just to be able to have been part of that journey with her, and this wasn't even through like something as intense as wedding photography. This was through mini sessions.
And I really feel that in your work, Caroline. Like when I look at it, I really feel like what you value most is that connection, that deep connection with your clients, knowing who they are, being part of their journey. I know how I feel when I'm like going on year 6 or 7, some of my very first mini sessions, and I don't do them very often, but I still have a handful of people I do them for because they're like, Darcy, you're the only one who's ever photographed the kids, from baby to now just doing, ballet classes to whatever. It's like, it's such a beautiful thing to be in somebody's life that long. Like it really does become a relationship for sure.
Yeah. And it's so special. And so, regardless of what your business is, whether it's photography, pottery, graphic design, or, Etsy shops, like just think about how you can continue to grow with your clients and be part of their journey. So if, for example, if you are crafting wedding stuff right now, it's like, how can you expand this to take whatever you've been creating for them and now into their next chapter of their lives? Maybe it's stuff for their home. Maybe they now need home decor. Maybe they now need children, like nursery decor, whatever it is. So just trying to constantly be in your client's shoes and thinking, what kind of products can I offer them that they would really value this time in their life?
Yeah. One thing, I have followed your career for a really long time. I love that you and I are still both in business. Yay, us. Like a lot of photographers have come and gone in the past decade. And
I think we're like literally part of the 2%ers.
We really are. We really are. And so high five to you. And as I watch you, I'm like, she so gets it. She knows exactly how to grow a business. And I know you do email lists, and how have you had to adapt since the blogging era to stay in the 2% of people who still are in business? Like, I know you do an email list. Are there any other things? Have you ever tried Facebook ads? Like, what is your marketing, plan?
For photography itself, it's my blogging. Like, I have such a love-hate with Instagram because Instagram has made it so easy and quick to push content out, but it's made me so lazy to blog.
So true. It's so true.
Because back then I was thinking, you know how Facebook will remind you of like past things? And it reminds me, back then I used to blog like 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I can't, like, it's just so time consuming because Instagram's made it so easy now.
And Instagram takes up a lot of time. If you're interacting with everybody and doing stories, it takes up the blogging time.
It does,
but it doesn't build SEO. Instagram does not build SEO.
Exactly. So you do still need the website and the blog for SEO purposes. Yeah. But I do love that with Instagram, you could just throw out quick snippets, and there doesn't, with blogging, you have to have like a whole story behind it of what you're telling. Instagram, so if I wanted to, this is just my mood today, I could just... Yeah, mood, done. Hashtag mood. So Instagram, I think, has been a really good way to stay connected with clients because they are on Instagram nowadays, and I get a lot of DMs from them. Facebook was really good for me too, because posting and then tagging them was how I grew in the beginning. I don't do that anymore though. I just don't have the time. You pick and choose your battles.
Yeah.
But for my mini sessions, emails have been a really huge part because my following is so vast, and it goes from anywhere from photographers to like international people. Yeah. So for me to talk about something so niche as mini sessions, I think would not be interesting to most of my readers. So I'll make the announcement of mini sessions on my blog, but they have to subscribe to my email list, and that's where I stay connected with them after that. Yeah,
I think it's so smart, especially if you want anything to be reoccurring, you need to have that email communication and build that list. Yeah. And I think photographers delay it a lot, especially wedding photographers, because they don't see how it can be useful for clients who are just getting married. But I think if you think of the client journey and you think where you want to lead them and what do you want to offer your wedding clients afterwards, that it can be it could play a big role.
Yeah. And emails is how you're going to get directly into their mailbox because, especially if your Instagram feed is heavily weddings, your clients may stop following you after. And then if my client doesn't have kids, then they may not be interested in in following my Instagram. And that's how I can fall off of their radar. Right. Yeah. So let's say they got married and 5 years have gone by before they decided to have kids again. Yeah. And if I'm relying on Instagram, they may not have thought about it. And like I said, clients don't realize that they need these photo shoots. So another product that I'm really proud of is what I call Baby's First Year. And it's a package where new parents book, and it's usually 4 sessions that they book within the year. So for me, in one client, I just got 4 portrait sessions out of them for that 1 year. Right. But does any parent naturally know that they needed that? Yeah. No, right? They're not going to have come to it on their own. Yeah. And not only this, but to have it done right, the seed have to have been planted while they were pregnant. Yeah. Not after the baby comes, because then it's too late. Because by then you've already missed out on maternity and newborn, right? By the time their head's above the water again. So, point is, if a client has stopped following me on Instagram, they would not be aware of this. So I need to educate them that this is what they are aware of. And that's where emails are so great, because it goes right into their inbox. And because you have a personal connection with them, like this is a hot lead already, right? Like this is not a random cold email that just came in that they're going to disregard. It's going to be like, oh, my wedding photographer emailed me. I wonder what she has to say. Exactly. So make sure that it's all of value. Like don't be spammy.
Yeah, I don't think you need to email them every month, but I think that there should be a journey after the wedding and then after they order the albums and then their gallery's expiring and then you offer them a year anniversary special. I always say, like, here's my special for my wedding clients. If you want a 1-year anniversary session somewhere, here's the locations I'll be. Come join me. You want to have little points of follow-up for at least 18 months and possibly more. So that they can, so that you can do that beautiful thing of shooting their maternity and their babies. I've had that. I think a lot of us have had an experience of that like once or twice, but I don't think enough of us are having a systematic email communication in place that keeps those clients on again and again.
Right. And again, like you said, about emailing them and letting them know where you're at. These are not things that they're going to think on their own. You have to educate them about it. You have to plant the seed like, hey, we can do an anniversary shoot in Hawaii. They wouldn't have thought about that on their own, right? But if they knew that you're going to be there and it's like, maybe we should plan a trip there at the same time and get some photos done too. Same thing with the baby's first year. They're not thinking like, I should book 4 sessions for this baby that's not even born yet, unless you start planting that seed. And
you show them this is how much your baby changes in a year and all that education. So smart. I love it. Okay. Well, I want to ask you a couple like rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
And if I, just to see like so my first thought is, what is one of your number one like mindset beliefs or practices in your day that you feel has really guaranteed part of your success?
I think one is self-care and just making sure that, because I've had depression in the past, and so I know that what can lead me there. And so I think staying healthy myself is what will make me be best for my business, right? Because you can't pour from an empty vessel. So if you are depleted yourself, your business is going to be depleted as well.
It's so true. And when you say, what gets you like into the depression, is it like overwork, lack of sleep, not eating good
for sure
foods?
Lack of sleep is what I've realized. If I don't get enough sleep, it's I could just start feeling depressed and there's no reason, but if I get enough sleep, that's one thing that I've eliminated from the formula. Another thing is also when I know that one of my pain points is feeling not good enough. And I think that comes from like my childhood and my parents constantly wanting more and more and more from me, and that's why I'm an overachiever. But I know that I can also, get so sucked into the overachieving that I feel like I'm never good enough. And so I have to remind myself of that as well. And the way to do that is reassessing what my business goals are. So not judging my success based on old standards.
Yes.
Not judging myself based on other people's standards. So for example, prior to having kids, I was doing a ton of destination weddings. After having my first kid still traveled with me a lot, but my second child, I was like, I can't keep doing this. And, but I remember when I would see, how you have, like, we all know who our competitors are, right? We all know who are the people that are constantly up against us for business. So basically what I saw happen was those people continue to rise in the destination realm and I did not. And I definitely fell into a place where I was like, oh, I suck. Look at how much these people have grown in, and I'm still here. And then I had to remind myself, wait a minute, but my goal was not destination weddings anymore. So I can't judge my success based on someone else's benchmark because that's not what I wanted. I wanted to grow a business that was operating 9 to 3, Monday through Friday. So if I judge based on that, am I successful? Yes. That's what I succeeded at, but I can't, feel unsuccessful because it's like saying like, I see someone running a marathon and I was like, oh my God, I suck. It's like, well, I wasn't training for the marathon. So I wasn't marketing for the destination wedding. I didn't set my goals and intentions on that. So I can't feel like a failure because I didn't meet someone else's goals.
And we're living in a time when every single type of lifestyle is available to us and we see it. So we're just seeing people living different lives. And as artists, we're like, oh, I could do destination. Oh, I could just be living in Hawaii doing this. Or, oh, I could, and I find myself doing all of that. And I'm like, but actually, I did move from New York back to Utah because I want to be in Utah. And it might seem really boring to a lot of people, but I can afford a beautiful home. I'm near my family. I get to be part of my niece's life. Like living in New York or living in Paris all the time, being on the road all the time, it's like I was missing out on so much. So there's so many different kinds of marathons. I mean, having 2 kids, that's its own marathon that you are running. I am on the sidelines going, whoo, what a marathon. I just got a puppy and I'm like, if this is I know that children are like a million times harder than this. So it's good to know how I react to this first.
Yeah. And I mean, the other related mindset is just not comparing yourself to others.
Yeah, it's
because you don't know the full story. Like we all have our strengths and weaknesses. We all have the pros and cons. Every lifestyle has its pros and cons. Yeah. So, I'll admit, like the people who've sold their house to buy a trailer to travel the world, that sounds enticing. I was like, wow,
that does. They're like, there's a family on Instagram and they take their little kids to swim with sharks and they have 2 million followers. I'm just like, who are these people? I'm watching them, but I don't want to do it.
What's on the other side? You don't see the other side of it.
How hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think it's just, I'm grateful that I've come to a place where I can appreciate people with different lifestyles and I can appreciate the hard work that they must have put into it, but also appreciate that that's not what I want or need at this moment, at least.
It's so true. What's the best adventure or vacation or country you've ever explored or been on, like a grand adventure?
I really love, it's between Bali or Thailand I think, and I brought my son, my oldest son, to both of those locations with me because I had weddings there. And I was like, I'm turning into a family vacation. But I think Thailand was like, there was something about Thailand. Like, I feel like, and when I travel, I like being where the locals are. Mm-hmm. And I just felt like Thailand it was so wonderful for that, just amongst the night markets. And I mean, it's probably still very touristy, but
it's so great though. It's such a unique, beautiful place, especially if you've just lived in America your whole life. It's just such a beautiful place. Do you have a favorite artist or photographer that you love to follow?
Like dead or alive?
Sure.
I love Rodney Smith.
Rodney Smith is a genius. Genius. And if you had like a legacy to leave to your kids, to the world through your art, do you have any idea of what you feel like your life's purpose and mission is in that sense, what you bring to the world?
It's weird, but I feel like my legacy is the legacies that I'm telling of other people. Like, I feel like my purpose is to bring out the stories and people telling the stories that they probably aren't even aware of, like just
I love that.
Like how to be able to extract these moments of people and that they would be able to feel a deeper connection to themselves, even as they, through their experience with me. And then as people are looking at photos of them, to feel like a deeper connection to them.
I love that. There's a young adult book called The Giver. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. And it's in this like alternate reality. And there's a man who's called like the memory keeper. And he's really old and he just houses all the memories of the world because they don't have computers, right? And the young boy goes and like learns of the past from him and learns about people and learns about all of these things. And I oftentimes think that that's people who are called as photographers. We're like that a little bit, like memory keepers, we're there to really document humanity, bring out the best in them, craft art with it. You have such a delicate, gentle, ethereal, beautiful style. I feel like you really do take the heart of the family and like show it in an image, which is so powerful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. Well, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. You are a wealth of knowledge. Definitely need to have you back on as a guest. You're such a powerful teacher, speaker. You shared such knowledge with us today. Thank you so much for being so open with that. your business is amazing. We're going to link to everything, link to your site on the show notes. And I don't know if you're offering any sessions or courses right now that, we can tell everybody about.
So like part of, me making my goal to shoot during 9 to 3 was also having to work the light from 9 to 3, right? Because I found that back then when I let my business dictate me, or when I let the light dictate me, that meant that I was only shooting during golden hour, which limited the number of sessions that I was doing. And so I was thinking I needed to take the light into my control now. And I needed to determine the times that were available and not let the sun dictate my hours.
I love this.
So I'm launching a course. It should be pre-launching this week. But it's called
awesome.
It's a 2-part class, all about light and all about flash.
Oh, I love it.
And
so needed.
Yes. And it's basically like all of my lighting tricks and tips that I've gone through so that I've been able to tailor my business to be able to shoot during the 9 to 3 hours, which includes shooting during high noon, during, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Yeah. Being able to work the light, whether you're shooting in the studio or outdoors, being able to work both of the lights. So all about light is mostly how to work available light. Well, it's all about how to work available light. Applies to both indoors and outdoors. And then all about flash is flash and strobes.
Oh, I love it. You're so right though. Like we have to command the light on. So when you're waking up on a wedding day and it gets gray, there's no postponing it. You really do have to learn how to master all types of light. And I know what a good teacher you are. So by the time this podcast comes out, this course is going to be out. So we're going to link all the way to that and make sure that we get everybody to look at that, because that is one of the biggest things that as photographers we do have to master is the light.
Yes.
It's so true. So,
and no one else is going to know that but you. Like a wedding planner, when
Nobody
they
knows.
scheduled your portraits, your romantics to be at 1 p.m., they are not thinking about the light. You have
That's why
to
every ceremony is at 5 p.m. You're like, why at 5? Like harsh Utah mountain light, New York harsh light at 5. Like 5 in the summer is the worst light. And yet it's when every ceremony is. So it's so true. They don't know where to put the cake. They don't know where pretty light is at all. It's all you, and you have to make it look effortless. You have to make it feel easy. You have to make everybody feel comfortable. You can't freak out about it. You have to make anything you're thrown work. I remember a ceremony I shot and it was like at sun, it was like at 5, but they had like this big building. So the bride was in direct sun and the groom was in dark shade. And there was just this like line going through the altar. And I just thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do about this? And I had to come up with a plan right then to figure it out.
What was your plan?
So what I did was I shot it from different angles and I put my second shooter on with a flash on the groom and I shot the bride. So we did different things like that. And then I shot with a flash straight on them to make sure he was lit and make sure she was, but it was tough. It was really, really tough. So I may have taken a photo and photoshopped it together with them both perfectly lit.
Yeah.
That is what I did.
That's smart.
Because I was like, there's no way to make it look that good with this extreme. It was very extreme. So you have to be ready to, at a moment's notice, make your game plan and figure out what you're going to do and how to shoot everything. So this is awesome. I can't wait for the course to come out. I'm going to take a look at it too.
Yes.
And it's just been such a pleasure to have you on the Play It Brave podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I love that. I love your podcast and what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. It's really fun to just have conversations with beautiful, creative people who are also very good at business. I feel like that's the magic formula to being in the 2% of businesses that survive.
Yeah.
So that's what we try and teach.
Yep.
Awesome. And there you have it. The brilliant Caroline Tran really teaching us how to have more profit in our business, how to set strong boundaries, right? 9 to 3 in her studio, or she charges more. That is the goal. That is the dream. I just want you to hear stories of powerful creatives who have really made it work for them, who have really stuck to their boundaries, who honor self-care and still are running a profitable business. There's nothing more powerful than that, to feel like you have control over your business. You're able to bring in clients. You're able to keep clients. You're able to have a strong marketing plan and truly, truly build your dream life. And for me, my dream life looks different than it did last year, looks different. It will probably look different than it will next year. But right now, it's staying home. It's getting enough rest. It's being healthy. It's serving you, every listener of the show. It's enjoying my puppy. And it's truly making sure that I am taking care of myself while living my life's calling and serving other creatives. So thanks again for listening to this episode of the Play It Brave podcast.
You've been listening to the Play It Brave podcast. Love what you heard? Wonderful. You can shout about it in the reviews. I bet you know someone who needs a shot of self-belief. Then don't keep us a secret. If you've missed something crucial, we've got show notes for this and all past episodes over at darcybenincosa.com/Play It Brave. Thanks for tuning in, but don't forget, the world teaches you to play it safe. Stand up, stand out, and start playing it brave.